Hey guys, what's up? Sorry that this is not a video, this is a recording, but I really don't feel like fighting with the camera right now, hooking it up to my laptop and such, so you're just gonna have to deal with the recording, sorry. And I also apologize for not having a video up recently. Part of it was because I've been really, really busy, lately, really trying to find a way to get some extra income in here. I'm trying to find a more suitable job and trying to fight off the mortgage company and yeah, it's actually just real income. Period. It's not just extra income, but real income that I need to get. And also, I've been having some phone line problems recently, and it's only now that I've been able to, get the internet working right again. So, all that type of shit combined has been giving problems. But yeah, I'm back, and there's actually some videos that I recorded earlier that I need to put up, but I gotta finish editing them. But in the meantime, let me throw this up. Now, this is I don't know what to call this. I don't want to call this a thought experiment because it's not really a thought experiment. I definitely don't want to call this facts because I really don't have anything real to back it up, I don't think. I guess call this musings. This is like, just a bit of musing over certain things. And if any of you guys later on want to call me out and say that this is nothing but just, philosophical bullshit, go ahead and say so, because I'm not going to fault you for that unless you happen to do it in a really obnoxious and stupid way that I can, point out that you're being just as stupid. I'm just simply saying, if you happen to catch any flaws with this, or if you did something, go, oh no, that's bullshit and this is why, then yeah, thank you. But I can't help but think about this, and I might as well share it with you guys just to see what you guys think about it. Okay, I'm sure with, it now being November of the year 2011 and with 2012 coming right around the corner, that all this shit about the end of the world coming in 2012 is, sure in the back of your minds whether you happen to believe in it or not. Now, as for myself, I don't. I'm sorry for any of you guys who entertain that particular notion, but it's not, I'm sorry, no. For those of you who happen to think it's going to be the end, that a comet's going to smash into us, or somehow the planet is going to crush, or some special super planet of aliens from Nibiru, or some shit's going to be coming. Nah, sorry, no. I have not checked my senses at the door with this type of thing. I know it's mostly bullshit, if not complete bullshit. Yeah, complete bullshit. And we've heard all these end of the world shits before, and I've survived through plenty of them. 1980 was not the end of the world. 1984 was not the end of the world. 1990 was not the end of the world. Nor was 96. Nor was 2000. Nor was 2001. It's time for people to stop making this shit up. People came up with dates this year and we're still fucking alive. So, sorry. No, I don't buy it. But with that said, one interpretation I remember hearing from somebody who's, one of those new age types, was that it doesn't really mean an end of a physical world, but rather a change in humans' consciousness, which will thus change the world we've created for ourselves. It's the end of a rather materialistic thinking, backwards, corrupted sort of world into a more enlightened one. Sounds nice. Still can be pretty much bullshit. After all, human beings have been given plenty of freaking chances, to fix things, and they always fuck up every time, it seems. I mean, there are a few people who learn the lesson, and the only problem is they can't seem to get everyone else to think, properly, so they either get smothered by the rest or go live on their own, or they just deal with it. But, having said all that, you guys have noticed a weird shift that's been going around lately around the world, haven't you? I mean, for all the backward sort of thinking that seems to be on an increase, with certain right-wing extremists or even left-wing extremists starting some real shit around the world. You look in the Muslim world, you happen to see a whole lot of right-wing extremists there starting shit, and you look in the United States and you see a whole lot of right-wing extremists starting shit, and you happen to look in Europe and you're seeing the same fucking thing. For all that, you're also seeing a huge backlash from everyday people who just want to be left alone and live life and really are getting sick of the ideology, and they're fighting back against a lot of the propaganda and a lot of the bullshit that the status quo has been pushing on us for quite some time. I mean, you see this with the revolutionary movements going on in the Arab world. You see this with the Occupy movement going on in the United States, which is now beginning to be spread in places in Europe. And you are also seeing a slow buildup of people getting sick and tired of materialism being passed off as success. And what I mean by materialism, I'm not trying to. I have to say this right now. Materialism in and of itself is not a bad thing. It's more this kind of crass materialism that's being, pushed on people, where the physical things you acquire is somehow supposed to be a mark of your moral fiber, which is just bullshit. But I'm sure you guys know what I mean by this. There's this kind of sense that the things that basically show off our humanity has been valued less and less throughout the years up until recently. And now we're seeing more and more of a push for people to be more humane with each other, and they're all saying enough is enough. We're getting tired of people pushing ideologies or pushing certain philosophies that make us neglect who we really are and what achievements we could possibly reach, in actually taking advantage of our humanity rather than suppressing it. And with this interesting shift that we happen to be seeing all around the world, you can't help but wonder, is this what 2012 could mean for us? Now, before any of you guys happen to think that I'm beginning to drink the Kool-Aid of 2012 prophecy, let me add this. I do not believe that there was some prophecy that was made a long time ago that stated that this is what was going to happen. However, I do believe that human beings have this uncanny knack for achieving their own prophecies. They make their own self-fulfilling prophecies whenever they happen to put themselves on certain paths. Whenever a collective group of people happen to decide that they're going to make a paradigm shift, that paradigm shift tends to happen, whether they like it or not. I can't help but think of some of my conversations with Kevin Biomech when we happened to talk about computers and the rise of the internet. He happened to have been somebody who was in the midst of the personal computer revolution back in the 80s. And he remembered that back then they were talking about how, many of the earlier hackers wanted to one day have this world of free information, where information was open to everyone, that it was no longer being held back, by, people with money or powerful corporations or whatever. It's like, now, we need free access to information, man, open source for everybody and all that type of stuff. And then it happened. Just not in the way that they expected, to the sense that many of them rejected the way it happened. They're like, "Now, fuck, this is too much bullshit." But it's what they wanted, and what I'm talking about is the internet. If you think about it, we do now have information at our fingertips, if you know where to look, and if you actually have, the willingness and put out the effort to get your hands on this shit. And if it's locked behind walls, sooner or later you're going to get through with it. It just happened, quite frankly, it depends on your level of interest. Think of video games, for instance, for those who are talking about, free access to information. These days, companies, especially video game companies, are trying to do their best to lock video games up with, DRM and all these type of things that are anti-piracy. And within a week, the pirates find a way of busting through it anyway. You can't stop them. In many ways, the pirated games end up being better than the commercial copies. The commercial copies are bogged down with a whole bunch of shit that can limit what you can do with the game, or worse, fuck up your computer. And the pirated copies free you from all that type of shit. Free access, man. They got what they wanted, just not in the way that they expected. And our focus right now is mostly on entertainment with the internet and not on what it can really grant for us. But it's there. It became a self-fulfilling prophecy. They focused on it, and it came. It did happen, just not the way they expected, but their focus yielded results. I can't help but think about that now with this whole 2012 thing, and many people who have since repeated the same thing that earlier dude told me about, how there was going to be a shift in consciousness, and we're going to be a more humane group of people. It looks like it might be a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, because I'm finding more and more people talking about 2012 as some kind of major shift, and all around the world I'm seeing some people making a backlash against the type of ideologies and the types of philosophies and organizations and systems that have kind of set us back and separated ourselves from one another and put us at odds with one another over the stupidest of things. And that seems to be fading away. More and more of us are now looking with scorn at old ideologies that a long time ago were valued quite highly. And it's scaring the establishment and dogmatic thinkers to death because they're seeing their way of life fading. And as I said in another video, they're running scared. And when any animal, remember, all human beings are an animal, whether we want to admit it or not. When animals feel cornered and threatened, that's when they get the most violent. That's when they get the most reactive, which is what we're seeing right now. But they're getting reactive with good reason, I'd think, because more and more people are rejecting their, dare I say it, bullshit way of life. They want something better. They want something that makes them feel whole, that makes them feel human, that, makes them, feel easier about interacting with one another, living in peace. Most of us really want to just live in peace, and too many of the ways that we've been living life don't make us live in peace. We're nervous, we're anxious, we're constantly running against the clock, we're constantly putting all our efforts for somebody else who, because of our efforts, are living rather luxuriously. We're tired of that shit. I'm quite willing to bet money that, we weren't nearly this stressed out as we are now. If you go several years back, the lifestyles that we're living, that we weren't living these days, we were living less stressfully. We were feeling happier. There wasn't all this shit about, being depressed and feeling anxious and, feeling that, we can't, accomplish anything in life. And we're kind of backlashing against all that, I think. So I have to ask, this is where I guess I'm really going to the core of what I'm talking about. And I'm sorry if I sound rambly, because I know I'm being rambly at this point. It's kind of all over the place here, but it's been late at night, and also this has been a hell of a week. So this past week has been a hell of a week. But I have to ask, this whole 2012 thing, does this seem to be, to you guys, something of a self-fulfilling prophecy that humanity seems to be creating for itself? One where we throw off an old world way of thinking that has been keeping us down for, quite some time, and limiting our potential and limiting our humanity towards one another, and we're going to try to somehow change the consciousness a bit, into a more humane one where we're no longer, bickering with one another and holding each other back for the stupidest of reasons, whether it, be, gender or race or even religion, I dare say, philosophy, where we actually, finally begin to realize that we're all stuck on this mud ball together, and we might as well make the best of it together, since the human species can only survive with all of us working towards that. I have to wonder if this is something that we seem to be doing, or is this just simply wishful thinking on my part, or stupid thinking on my part? What do you guys think? That's something that has been in my mind. I guess I can end it off right here, but I guess before I cut it off here, there is one thing I do want to throw in. For those of you who think it's impossible for something like that to exist, I need to kind of repeat something that I heard somewhere else, though in a different context. This was something that somebody else happened to mention when he was talking about the powers that a GM in an RPG can have on their campaign, but I think it's a bit more relevant with life as well. The dude was talking about the power of the shaman, and how the shaman has power over words and language, and how by him changing the meaning of the word and the meaning of the language, he can change eventually the entire world. Sounds far-fetched, it may seem, but it's something that's happened many, many times before. And the example that the dude decided to use was love. It surprises a lot of people, and it's something I've pointed out myself many times over the years, but it surprises a lot of people when I tell them that the word love as we know it didn't have the same meaning as it did hundreds of years ago. In fact, our notions of romantic love are relatively new in the scope of human existence. If you look back in earlier time periods, particularly like, the earlier periods of Europe or even before that, the concept of romantic love didn't really exist, at least not in the sense that you would think in certain cultures. Some cultures did have it, but many other cultures, when they said the word love, they didn't mean it the way we meant it. It was just a synonym for lust. So for instance, when you see like the goddess Aphrodite, the goddess of love, these days we think of her as being, the goddess of love and emotional attachment and romantic love. Will come here, my darling. No. It was straight up lust. She was the goddess of lust. Okay? Sorry, that's what it meant. That's what she was. Her son Cupid, who happened to have been, Eros, I really should say, because if I'm going to say Aphrodite, I need to, say the right name. Eros himself was, the offspring of a coupling between the goddess of lust and a god of war, Ares. Think about that and it will make a lot of sense, especially since he's the one who shoots people with arrows and all of a sudden they're overcome with love. And again, the word love doesn't mean it the way we mean it these days when we think of him shooting someone with the arrow. Oh, I love you. No, it was straight up lust. I gotta have that person. When he shot them with the arrows, they're like, they were overcome with that beastly lust of, we gotta get it on now. Ripping off clothes sorts of shit. That's what it meant. This whole concept of romantic love was a recent phenomenon. And it changed when people started reading certain poems from Celtic traditions and Irish traditions and so on. At least when we're talking about European history, and I'm generalizing it a lot because there was a lot of other factors to it. But generally, when you started, when those older stories from the Celtic and Irish tradition started seeping into other aspects of European society, they changed what the word love meant. And by changing what the word love meant and the scope of what love meant, it also changed the fabric of society, because now people were beginning to get married for a different reason than what they were originally getting married for, which also changed the scope of the fabric of the society itself. Because if you get married and you're starting families for a different reason than what you were doing beforehand, it also changes the scope of how that society runs and how it's functioned. Before, you were getting married because, well, I'm marrying that person because they're good stock, from good family. They can help our family to grow. It was like a business decision. They didn't get married because, oh, I love you. That sort of respect was something that was supposed to either come with time or fuck that type of shit. That's fleeting moment type of stuff. You need to deal with the here and now and the whole thing of dealing with this like a business, that it's a commodity sort of thing. We don't think that way anymore. And one of the major reasons why we don't think that way anymore is because of our concept of what love is. We've changed the meaning of it, which changed the reason why we decide to get married and start a family, and how a society should run in that aspect. It's now no longer just this whole cold business sort of thing where people are regulated to a certain role. Now it's more of I vibe with you, I have a sense of oneness with you, I want to connect with you in that emotional level. That's a big change. That really, if you sit down and think about that's a major paradigm shift, and not just how we view each other and how we're supposed to, like how genders view each other, but how we're supposed to work with each other, how a family's supposed to start. And families, of course, are building blocks of societies. It changes a hell of a lot if you sit down and think about that. Just to change one word affecting all that's a big fucking thing, and it did happen because of a change in a paradigm shift, and it's something that human beings started. Just one word. One fucking word. Now imagine if you're able to change just the meaning of just one word, and you affect a change like that over many years. Imagine what would change if instead of changing just one word, you change an outlook of how we're supposed to treat each other. You change the meaning of what it means to interact with another person as a human being. What type of change do you think we would end up with after several generations of that? I think that would be very interesting. But are we capable of doing it, though? That's the question, I guess. Catch you guys later.